I am in such a good mood. I'm in such a good mood. We have reached Friday. Here we go. We actually have a football game that took place yesterday, and I mean it, man. I think that's the question of the weekend. When we look at where we've been, not just the offseason, but where we've been this week, how many people, and I know you felt this way, I felt this way, everybody's like, okay, Bosa put feather pen to paper today, and therefore everything, the decks are clear. All the questions are gone, ... Let's go, let's play ball. And my thought was suddenly, well, almost all of the questions are gone. But we've circled back to the original question that was actually still there when the 49ers last played football. And that is, who is Brock Purdy really going to be? Everybody says sample size too small. Well, the sample size gets bigger in 48 hours. So,
right.
So what are we going to see?
Is he good enough is the question. Is he good enough to win the games they need to win? Forget week 1 or week 4 or week 10, although all those games matter. Is he good enough to get you to the playoffs and then get you into the playoffs and win the games that he needs to win? And that's really, I think, where a lot of Niner fans are is he good enough? Because Kyle Shanahan thinks he's good enough, and John Lynch thinks he's good enough, and the whole team down there thinks, yes, he is good enough to do what they want him to do, but now we get to see it. Brock Purdy in Pittsburgh, a good defensive team with a whole season to make the adjustments and see what he does on film. We get to go out and look at it on Sunday morning and see if he is good enough.
Yeah, there's some sound from Christian McCaffrey in the locker room yesterday that we're going to share with you shortly. I think it's important. Look, it's just words, and teammates are going to support one another. I get it. But the way Christian said it, it sort of was the inspiration for this question today. Because Christian, you always hear people say, oh, yeah, Brock's great. We believe in Brock. We made Brock one of our captains. But he didn't say, we believe in Brock and we're going to go do great things this year. He essentially said, Brock Purdy's going to be a very good player in this league for a long time. And I thought to myself, that's the question we're really asking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whether or not he can do that.
Right. I mean, that's the question, but much like your conversation yesterday about, you can't talk about the Super Bowl until you enjoy each game and week by week. So you can't really ask that question of, can he be the quarterback for a long time or not until you get into week 1 and week 2 and week 3. So in terms of like what the fans think as an overarching question, yeah, it matters. Like, can he be that guy? But it kind of speaks to what you said yesterday about the whole Super Bowl or bust. And so many of us fans are thinking about, you better be there in the end of January. Isn't this the same question about Brock Purdy?
No, I don't think so. Because all I've heard all offseason is, wait till defenses and defensive coordinators get a second to look at this. And they're going to find his kryptonite, and that's going to be the end of that. And, I mean, what was the list? Was it The Athletic that put out the list earlier this week that ranked Brock Purdy as the 32nd best quarterback in the NFL, which is wild to me because how on earth are names like C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson ahead of them? They haven't played. They literally haven't played. So you'll have on one hand people going, well, it's been a very small sample size. And then in the very next breath, they're like, I'm going to rank C.J. Stroud ahead of Brock Purdy. Again, it's draftism. It's what I call it. It's draftism. Brock Purdy suffers from draftism that happens throughout America. And it is, you think there's a skill set that belongs in the first round. That apparently is a skill set that belongs in the 7th round. And no matter how many times in a row it gets debunked, you cannot remove that from people's brains. It's like you can take the kid out of the 7th round, but you can't take the 7th round out of the kid.
Right.
And so here we are with all of you believing that the talent of C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson and whoever else, Sam Howell and all these people that you're excited to see this weekend, they're all better than Brock Purdy, even though none of them have won a football game before. And this guy won January football games before. So That's my response to that. Yet I'm not here to tell you that he's going to be a 10-year star in the NFL. Right. Wouldn't surprise me if he is, but I think that's the question on our mind is you have to start this weekend and come out and show everybody that last year was not a fluke.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's the F word, the word that you hate because, nothing is a fluke if it happens, and it happened last year for Brock Purdy for almost half a year and into the playoffs. I mean, Brock Purdy showed that he can win football games at the very least. He can lead his offense to average 30 points a game, which he did. And if his arm didn't fall off in the NFC Championship game, maybe he wins that game and he becomes a Super Bowl quarterback, not a Super Bowl winning quarterback per se, but a quarterback who goes to the Super Bowl. So I do think it's fair to say that Brock Purdy should be ahead of these guys who have never played, and I would put him ahead of Kenny Pickett, who will be on the field against him on this Sunday. But whatever you want to do in terms of your own ranking, ultimately this will all get settled. And your question as to whether or not, can Brock Purdy be a quarterback of the future? Is he middling? Is he neither? All that will be solved here in the next 17 weeks.
Well, everything will be solved going forward, but I do wonder where people's minds are in terms of what we're thinking because, and this is to a degree, you want to talk about a small sample. I mean, we're only talking about a couple hundred votes right now, but you're seeing, oddly, on Twitter, the debunking of Twitter, which in other words is, according at least to these 200 votes, more than half of 49er fans firmly believe that Brock Purdy is a legit NFL QB1.
What's the percentage?
57.1%. Okay, right now, and again, this is our question, and you can absolutely weigh in. We'd love to hear from you. All opinions welcome, 888-957-9570. The question is, what's your prediction on who Brock Purdy is destined to be? Option 1, a legit NFL QB1. Option 2, a middling starter. Let's call him Ryan Tannehill, okay? And then option 3, not the guy. That's the group, and I heard Steiny say this earlier, and he suffers from Minnesota-ism. So that's what's going on there. But I heard him earlier today. He believes in his heart of hearts that the 49ers are going after Kirk Cousins next offseason.
It's a bit. He loves Kirk Cousins.
Of course.
But where would you put Kirk Cousins in your own poll? Is he a middling guy or is he a real QB1?
I think he's a legit NFL QB1.
And that's where
I got to give him that.
That's where your poll has enough gray area to where I think that it can be tough to really figure out. Like you look at Burrow and Allen and Lamar and Deshaun and Mahomes, guys who got these massive, massive deals. Yes, they're legit.
Too legit
QB1s.
Yeah.
And even Kirk Cousins got a huge deal. He got a big-time guaranteed deal. So isn't he like a legit QB1?
I think so. Yeah. And these guys,
Dak, even though we don't think he's very good, he's a legit QB1.
Yeah, these are perennial NFL playoff performers. I didn't say elite.
Right.
I said legit NFL QB1. I think Dak is there. I think Kirk is there.
Jalen's there.
Oh, Jalen's, sure. He's, absolutely.
Like Geno you wouldn't put there, even though
Geno would be a middling starter.
Even though he got a 1-year deal. It was more than 1 year, but they can get out of it after 1 year.
I'm not into the whole, what you got paid necessarily.
Sure.
Because that's circumstantial. But are you good enough to hold the job, yet it's a feel where you're not. Right. You're not a player that a team is like, oh my gosh, we're all in on you.
So Daniel Jones is middling, even though he got paid to be a real QB1.
I think he is because I wouldn't have paid him, but that's just me.
Yeah,
that's just me. Like the guys,
they paid him.
The guys. I mean, if you ask me any team, I'll place their quarterback. Just my opinion into one of those three categories.
Right. What about Tua?
Middling.
Yeah, and wow,
I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. Daniel Jones, middling.
Trevor Lawrence he's a real one.
Legit.
Even though he hasn't been paid yet because he hasn't been up for the payment yet.
Kenny Pickett, as of right now, middling.
Justin Fields.
Middling for the moment. He's not there yet.
Jared Goff?
That one's hard. But I think
Russell Wilson?
No, Russell Wilson's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. I know that he had a bad year.
Aaron Rodgers?
No, these are all legit NFL QB1s. And I actually would give that to Goff. He's been to a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Sure.
And he got run out of town after that.
He did, but
Yeah.
I mean, what did he won, 8 of the last 10 last year? He went on the road and beat the Chiefs
He
last
sure
night.
did, yeah.
Jared's good. Jared, how many picks did Jared throw in the second half of the year last year? Literally, like one. I mean,
Jimmy Garoppolo, middling. Is he the epitome of middling?
Yeah.
I know it's hard
probably.
for you to say that.
No, but he's high-level middling because no, he is.
HLM.
Well, he's been a starting QB in the NFL for 7 years
and
now.
And he was the highest-paid QB for a time.
For a time. Matt Stafford, that's a legit starter, right? That's a legit starter.
To me, he's middling based on where he is in his career.
Maybe where he is right now.
Right.
You can go to the NFC South, and the only one, Baker, middling. Right?
Sure.
On his third or fourth team already.
Raymond Ritter. Middling.
I would never say that about Ray, but I would about Desmond.
No, he's elite. Yeah, sorry.
Bryce Young, let's find out. You're the number one pick, but we haven't seen anything yet. Derek Carr, you're like a Jimmy.
He's middling.
But that's like a Jimmy.
Right.
That's like a Jimmy. Yes, there are certain guys with gray area in there for sure. But this is predictive. This is predictive. So you're going to put him at middling. And again, I'm not asking you what you think Brock is today.
No,
I'm asking you where you think this is going.
And I think that's where it's going. And if they want to pay him like they paid Jimmy G, they're welcome to. But I don't think that Brock Purdy ever becomes one of the 5 best, 7 best quarterbacks in the league. And that's okay. You don't need him to be with the Shanahan offense and the talent around him.
That's true, too.
Yeah.
That's true, too. And by the way, I've come to this sort of destination. I think with Kyle Shanahan as a coach and a roster that at least is currently built like it is, I don't know if any QB is ever going to fully be believed, if you will. We're always, no matter who the QB is, there's going to be the question, if there is success, who's actually driving this bus? Is this a really good quarterback, or is he just in the Kyle Shanahan system, surrounded by great players, therefore there is success? We did this for 5 years with Jimmy Garoppolo. I have heard people dismiss Matt Ryan, who won an MVP with Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. This has a shade and a feel of the Belichick versus Brady conversation that went on for a period of time. Who's driving the bus? Is this because of Brady? Or is it because of Belichick? We got our answer. He left and won another Super Bowl. There you go. But I don't know if Brock Purdy is ever, no matter what he does, going to be able to escape that shadow. He can have all the success in the world under Kyle, and there will be a portion of the fan base that thinks it's because of Kyle, not because of Brock.
Depends on how it looks and how he goes about winning the Super Bowl. If he goes out and he throws for 380 and 4 touchdowns in a big game or in the Super Bowl, then the narrative changes. But the way Kyle Shanahan calls plays, the way this offense is run, it's designed for him to go 16 of 22 for $180 and not turn it over.
Right, but that's also just statistical and fantasy football stuff. Joe Montana was out there on a high-scoring offense. If you go back and look at the numbers, you'll be wowed.
I lived it.
Yeah, Joe Montana did not go for 350 every week. That's not the way it operated, and nobody went, Bill Walsh, there it is. Anybody can play this game. So, but it'll always be that back and forth.